The Hoover Dam holds back the largest man-made lake in the United States. More water, more potential, more life-giving resource stored in one place than almost anywhere on Earth. And downstream, in the arid deserts it tamed, live 40 million people. When that reservoir fails, and it is failing, the taps for those millions will not just run low, they will run dry. Not a simple drought, something worse. Dead pool. That's the point where the water level drops so low that gravity can no longer pull it through the dam's intakes. It's the moment a reservoir becomes a bathtub with a broken drain. The water is there, but you can't get it out. And we are just a few dozen feet away from that point. But here's the part they're not broadcasting. The concrete itself is showing signs of a slow, irreversible decay. You're watching megastructures. But this crisis is happening in plain sight, and understanding it means understanding how we got here, and why this monumental gamble is about to be called. If you want to understand the hidden forces reshaping our world and how they affect you directly, make sure you subscribe. We break down the stories nobody else is telling, and you won't want to miss what's coming. Let's begin. Picture this. You are flying over the border of Nevada and Arizona. Below you, a colossal wedge of white concrete is jammed into a black rock canyon. It's monstrous. It's elegant. It seems eternal. The Hoover Dam is an icon of the 20th century, a monument to a time when humanity believed it could conquer nature itself. It weighs 6.6 million tons. That's more material than all the pyramids of Giza combined. Let's translate that. It's enough concrete to pave a 2-lane highway from San Francisco to New York City. That's the sheer mass required to plug the Colorado River and hold back the force of a 280-mile-long lake. What you're seeing when you look at the Hoover Dam is an arch-gravity dam. That's a type of structure that uses both its immense weight and its curved shape to resist the crushing force of water. The arch pushes the load outwards into the canyon walls. Pure physics. Pure genius. It took nearly 5 years and 21,000 men to build it in the 1930s. But the absence of a collapse does not mean an absence of risk. The dam is an engineering marvel, but it's a marvel built on a single, fatal assumption. The assumption was about water. The dam's purpose was to capture the wild, unpredictable flow of the Colorado River and distribute it on demand. To turn desert into farmland. To power the growth of cities like Los Angeles, Phoenix, and Las Vegas. The river's water was divided up in 1922 in a pact called the Colorado River Compact. 7 states sat down and allocated shares of the river. How much water each state would get. A treaty for a river. But they made a mistake. A catastrophic one. The measurements they used to decide how much water the river carried were taken during one of the wettest periods in the last 500 years. They allocated 15 million acre-feet of water per year. The river, on average, only carries about 13.5 million. It was a system built on a flawed assumption. From its very inception, the American Southwest was promised more water than nature could ever provide. The math was wrong from day one. Think about that. For 100 years. And we have been running a water deficit, drawing more from the bank account than was ever deposited. It was a system built on a flawed assumption. What do you think is the single biggest contributor to this crisis? Let us know in the comments below. For decades, the sheer size of the reservoirs, Lake Mead and Lake Powell upstream, masked the problem. They were so vast they could absorb the deficit. They acted like a savings account. But for the last 23 years, a historic megadrought supercharged by a warming climate has accelerated the withdrawals. Now, the savings account is nearly empty. The buffer is gone, and we are face to face with the consequences of that 100-year-old mathematical error. The reason the Hoover Dam matters isn't just the concrete, it's the water it controls. Lake Mead, the reservoir it creates, is the lifeline for the lower basin states. Arizona, California, and Nevada. When full, it holds 28 million acre-feet of water. 1 acre-foot is enough water to cover a football field 1 foot deep. It's the amount of water an average family of 4 uses in a year. So, Lake Mead at full capacity could serve 28 million families for a year. It's a volume so large it feels infinite, but it's not. Right now, it's less than 30% full. You can see the evidence etched into the canyon walls, a stark white line of mineral deposits ringing the lake. The locals call it the bathtub ring. It shows how far the water has fallen, over 170 feet from its high point. That's a 17-story building. That's how much water is simply gone. This drop is the key to understanding the immediate danger, because as the lake level falls, it triggers specific crisis points. These aren't guesses. They are hard elevations, engineered thresholds. The first set of thresholds are the shortage tiers. At 1,075 feet above sea level, the federal government declares a Tier 1 shortage. Mandatory water cuts are imposed on Arizona and Nevada. At 1,050 feet, it's a Tier 2 shortage. The cuts get deeper. California, for the first time, has to start reducing its take. We have been bouncing between these tiers for years now. It's a slow-motion emergency, but the truly terrifying thresholds are much lower. The first is called the power pool level. This is the minimum lake elevation needed for the dam's massive turbines to generate electricity. That level is 950 feet. The Hoover Dam's power plant has a capacity of over 2,000 megawatts. It provides cheap and clean electricity to millions of people. It powers the lights of Las Vegas. When the lake drops below 950 feet, the turbines go silent. The intakes that feed them will be sucking air. Not a gradual reduction in power, a complete shutdown. The loss of that power on the region's grid would be catastrophic, forcing utilities to buy more expensive, often dirtier power on the open market. Your electricity bill goes up. The grid becomes less stable. But what comes next is something far worse. After power pool comes dead pool. The level is 895 feet. This is the point of no return. 895 feet is the elevation of the lowest water outlet on the dam. If the lake surface drops below this level, gravity can no longer push water downstream. The Hoover Dam, this billion-dollar piece of infrastructure, becomes a useless plug of concrete. The water will be there, a vast, dead lake trapped behind the dam, but not a single drop can get out. Not to the farms in California, not to the taps in Phoenix, not to the fountains of Las Vegas. The river below the dam, for the first time in 90 years, would run dry. It stops. Think about that. 40 million people depend on this water. The entire agricultural economy of Southern California and Arizona depends on this water. If this reality of the American West is shocking to you, hit the like button so more people can see this and share this with your family. These are conversations we all need to be having. As of today, the lake level is hovering just above 1,040 feet. That's only 90 feet above the power pool threshold, and only 145 feet from dead pool. In a bad year of drought, the lake can drop 20 feet. The math is not hard. We are not decades away from this crisis. We are years away, maybe a handful of bad winters away. The system is blinking red, and here's where the danger becomes personal. Las Vegas, a city of 2.3 million people in the middle of the Mojave Desert, gets 90% of its water from Lake Mead. They saw this coming. They knew the original water intakes for the city might one day be left high and dry, so they made a bet, a $1.5 billion bet. They drilled a new tunnel, 3 miles long, deep under the lake bed. It's called the third straw. It's an intake pipe positioned at the very bottom of the lake, at an elevation of 860 feet, below dead pool. The engineering is brilliant. It's a drain at the bottom of the bathtub. It was designed to allow Las Vegas to keep pulling water even after the dam itself had stopped releasing it. They were planning for the apocalypse. But the third straw reveals a terrifying truth. It can only pull out what's left. It can't make more water. It just ensures Las Vegas is the last one to drink from a rapidly emptying glass. This is the kind of high-stakes engineering we cover every week. If you haven't already, take a second to subscribe so you don't miss our next investigation. The city of Las Vegas gambled on technology to save it. But what about the structure itself? The dam that everyone assumes is invincible. The title of this video isn't just about water levels, it's about failure. The Hoover Dam is 90 years old. It was built with the best technology of its time. But its time was the 1930s. And concrete, even millions of tons of it, is not eternal. There is a phenomenon known as alkali-silica reaction, a SR, but geologists and engineers call it concrete cancer. It's an insidious chemical process that can destroy a dam from the inside out. It happens when water seeps into the microscopic pores of the concrete. If the cement has a high alkali content and the aggregate, the sand and gravel mixed in, contains a certain type of silica, a chemical reaction starts. The reaction forms a gel. This gel absorbs water and expands. It swells, and as it swells, it creates immense internal pressure. That pressure has nowhere to go. It generates a web of micro cracks. The cracks grow, connect, and can eventually compromise the structural integrity of the concrete. It's a slow, relentless process. A SR doesn't make a dam collapse overnight. It weakens it. It makes it more brittle, more vulnerable to other stresses, like seismic activity. The Hoover Dam was built before ASR was fully understood. The aggregate used was dredged from the Colorado River, and parts of it are known to be reactive. For decades, the Bureau of Reclamation, the agency that manages the dam, has stated that ASR is not a significant concern at Hoover. They monitor the dam with thousands of instruments. They measure every shift, every strain, every temperature change. They say the growth is infinitesimally small, but here's what they don't widely publicize. Other dams from the same era, built with similar materials, are suffering from severe ASR. Parker Dam, just downstream from Hoover, has had millions of dollars in repairs to mitigate its effects. The concrete has swelled and cracked. So has the Stewart Mountain Dam in Arizona. The chemistry doesn't lie. The conditions for ASR exist at Hoover Dam. The slow internal expansion is a documented reality in similar structures. The official position is that everything is under control. But concrete cancer is a patient disease. It plays the long game. The dam is getting older. The stresses are changing, and a process that was once considered negligible might be accelerating in ways we can't yet see. It's not just chemistry, it's physics. Silt. For 90 years, the Colorado River has been dumping sediment into Lake Mead. Sand, silt, and clay that would have naturally flowed to the sea are now trapped at the bottom of the reservoir. An estimated 100 million tons of sediment builds up every year. This has two dangerous effects. First, it reduces the lake's storage capacity. The floor of the lake is literally rising. This means a dead pool elevation of 895 feet might be optimistic. The effective bottom of the lake is higher than the blueprints say, meaning the water could become inaccessible even sooner. Second, this thick, heavy blanket of silt puts a different kind of load on the dam. The original design was for water pressure. Silt behaves differently. It's heavier, less fluid. It changes the stresses on the upstream face of the dam in ways the original engineers could not have fully modeled. It's another unknown variable in a system that is already pushed to its limits. The scariest event in the dam's history wasn't a drought, it was a flood. In the spring of 1983, a perfect storm of a heavy snowpack, high temperatures, and massive rainfall sent an unprecedented surge of water down the Colorado. Lake Mead began to fill. Rapidly, too rapidly, the dam's main power plant turbines were running at full capacity, releasing as much water as they could. It wasn't enough. The water level kept rising, heading towards the top of the dam. To prevent the dam from being overtopped, which would be an unthinkable catastrophe, engineers were forced to use the spillways for the first time since a test in 1941. These are two massive concrete-lined tunnels, one on each side of the canyon, designed to be the emergency release valves. When the giant drum gates were opened, a torrent of water equivalent to the flow of Niagara Falls blasted into the tunnels at over 120 miles per hour. But something went wrong. The sheer force of the water began to destroy the concrete. A phenomenon called cavitation, where tiny vacuum bubbles form in fast-flowing water and then implode with the force of mini explosions, was ripping the spillway tunnels apart. It scoured out a hole in the concrete lining of the Arizona spillway over 30 feet deep and 150 feet long. Engineers feared the erosion could eat its way through the rock and compromise the very foundations of the spillway structure. They had to drastically reduce the flow, gambling that the lake wouldn't overtop the dam while they did. The gamble paid off. Barely. The event revealed a critical design flaw. The emergency systems designed to save the dam could have actually destroyed it. They spent millions retrofitting the spillways, adding air slots to prevent cavitation. But the event left a chilling question. What other unknown vulnerabilities are hiding within this 90-year-old giant? What happens when another unprecedented event, but this time a drought, not a flood, pushes the system to a different breaking point? Source and So why do people keep moving to Phoenix? Why does Las Vegas keep building new casinos? Why is new housing being developed in Southern California when the water supply is on a countdown clock? The primary reason is that a dead pool is probabilistic. It will happen if the drought continues. But when will it happen? The honest answer is nobody knows. It could be 5 years. It could be 15. A few years of heavy snow in the Rockies could buy us a decade. A few more years of dry winters could seal our fate. When you do not know the exact timeline of a disaster, you act as if it won't happen. We treat uncertain catastrophes as if they are impossible ones. The human mind is not built to process slow-motion apocalypses. The threat is abstract. It's a number on a government website, a lake level in feet above sea level. It is not as real as a job offer in Phoenix. It is not as urgent as the mortgage on a home in San Diego. It is not as present as the life you are building for your family. The economic engine of the Southwest also has a powerful inertia. Real estate is big business. Agriculture is a multi-billion-dollar industry. Shutting that down based on a future risk is politically and economically unthinkable. It is much, much easier to just hope for rain. There's also the problem of competing narratives. A hydrologist says the Colorado River system is on the verge of collapse. A city planner says Phoenix is a vibrant, growing metropolis with a great future. For someone thinking of moving there, the planner's narrative is more tangible. The danger feels distant. The opportunity feels real. The entire civilization of the American Southwest is built on this psychological blind spot, a collective agreement to believe that the dam will hold, the water will flow, and the ingenuity that built this system will somehow save it. But the engineers are out of tricks. The politicians are locked in bitter negotiations over who should cut their water use the most. The math doesn't work. There is not enough water to meet the promises that were made. The time does not exist to engineer a new solution on the scale required. Picture the scenario. It's a Tuesday in August in a suburb of Phoenix. The temperature is 112 degrees. A family is at home. The kids are playing video games. The parents are making dinner. The water pressure in the kitchen sink has been low for weeks. Then it slows to a trickle. Then it stops. Nothing. They try the bathroom tap. Nothing. The toilet won't refill. Panic begins to set in. They turn on the news. An emergency broadcast is on every channel. Lake Mead has officially hit dead pool. The Central Arizona Project Canal, which brings Colorado River water across the desert to Phoenix and Tucson, is dry. The city is switching to its emergency groundwater reserves, but those reserves are finite and can't serve everyone. Water rationing is effective immediately. Lines for bottled water snake for miles around grocery stores. Businesses are ordered to close. The power grid, already strained by the loss of Hoover's hydropower, begins to fail, leading to rolling blackouts. The air conditioning cuts out. People begin to get sick. Dehydration, heat stroke. The social fabric begins to tear. How long before the city becomes unlivable? A week? A month? This isn't a Hollywood script. This is the direct physical consequence of a dried-up river and a dam that can no longer deliver on its promise. Understanding these risks is the first step to preparing for them. Subscribing is the best way to stay informed on these critical issues. The Hoover Dam is not just a piece of engineering, it's a symbol. It's a promise of permanence. A promise that we can build things that last forever, that we can command the natural world. But that promise is breaking. It's being broken by a century of overallocation, by a 2-decade-long drought, and by the slow, inexorable decay of the materials we used to build our monuments. It has the concrete, it has the history, it has the 40 million people in its downstream shadow. It has a population that has never known a world without its water and has no cultural memory of the desert it holds back. When the water stops, and it will stop eventually if the trend continues, the reality of the desert will return. The countdown is measured in feet. The warning system is the bathtub ring on the walls of Lake Mead, and time is the one resource that no amount of concrete can buy. The Bureau of Reclamation has done everything it can. They've optimized the turbines, they've renegotiated treaties, they've funded conservation, but you cannot conserve water that isn't there. So the region waits. The lake level drops. The cities plan for a future with less. The farmers watch their fields turn to dust. The instruments in the dam measure the growing strain. And everyone makes a tacit agreement not to think too hard about the day the river stops. On that day, the 90 feet of water between us and a silent power plant will seem like an ocean we carelessly wasted. And if stories like this make you realize how fragile our systems are, grab the free Emergency Essentials checklist in the description below.